Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. A couple weeks ago, we hosted Vancouver's own Jeopardy champion Brendan Liao, the stay-at-home son who was having a tough time finding a job despite having a graduate degree. Well, he's not alone. Folks born between 1997 and 2012, Gen Z, are facing the worst youth unemployment rate since the mid-1990s. Now, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe they're lazy. Here to discuss, I'm a big fan. She is the editor of This is VANCOLOUR. You know her as BC Bob's roving reporter on Now You Know BC, my emotional support Zoomer, Neena Savage. Neena, what an honor. You are the biggest guest to have ever graced this table. So thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on this table for the first time.
Now, I have to ask you, I know you to be a very hardworking, talented professional, but Gen Z has a bad reputation, whether it's quiet quitting or bare minimum Monday, things that they've kind of started or that have trended for Gen Z. When it comes to the work-life balance, is Gen Z all life with like a splash of work?
Well, today is actually barely trying Thursdays, so I think we should just wrap this up right now. But yeah, I've definitely heard that people say that, but I find it funny. Like, people are always like, Gen Z's this, Gen Z's that. What is that stat? Like 60% of Gen Z don't drink alcohol.
That's a
Half
good
of
thing.
Gen Z is like 13. Like, why are we talking about Gen Z in the workforce when, 2012 to 97, half of those people are in high school.
True.
How were you working in high school? Where'd you work?
I did not work. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think, yes, it's important to talk about, like, yes, I'm 23, I'm in the workforce, but if you're born, really the only people in the workforce would be 97 to 2005. Okay. And most of those people are in school, university.
Sure.
They're working hard.
Yeah.
Quiet quitting in your 20s, that's a part of being in your 20s. Going into work hungover, I've never done it here. But, like, I feel like we're just, it's people in their 20s. We're not talking about a generation that's in their 40s who's, kicking their feet up at work and doing nothing. These are 20-year-olds that are just trying to, like, figure out who they are and where they want to work. Most of them are working at Cactus Club.
So what I'm hearing is you think that there's a double standard.
I think so. And I think millennials had the exact people were saying the same thing about millennials.
Right. Now, I do feel like adults of your generation, they had a lot of, like, let's call it traumatic world events happen as they were coming of age. I mean, we can think of the pandemic. For some of the older Gen Z folks, we can think of the 2008 crash, the economic crash. Do you think that's shaped your generation's view of working or how you view your profession? 300%. Okay.
Like, yeah. I'm also, like, I was born a year after 9/11, and a lot of Gen Z were infants during that time. I feel like that shaped a lot of, like, the fear in the Western world and, like, what's going on. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't look at the news and feel optimistic about the future right now. I don't know. Can you?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
I think obviously that affects everybody, no matter their generation. But I think if you have your retirement fund ready and you're kind of, like, slowing down, or you have a family, you have things to focus on. But as a 20-year-old, when I turn on the news or I go on Instagram, I'm not excited about the future and all the things I'm going to be able to do.
Why aren't you saving up all this money to buy a house and to, like, plan for your future?
Yes, I can't wait to buy my first home in Vancouver. I'm so excited, guys. I think I'll be able to do it by 25. But yeah, like, I don't see myself being able to ever afford a home. I don't see myself ever affording to, like, retire at 50, or that idea that I think the whole, like, okay, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to work 40 hours a week. I'm going to grind it out. I would do that if I knew I could, by 50, be going to Mexico and being a snowbird and doing all these things that I feel like were more promised to Gen X or even some elder millennials. So now it's like, why would I like hate my life for, like, no,
Sure, yeah.
Like, I feel like you might as well, we've seen what, especially for elder millennials who aren't being able to, or millennials who aren't able to afford a home now, aren't able to start a family. Like, it's really terrible. We've seen, like, their hustle culture hasn't really paid off. So why would we just fall into the exact same trap? I'm gonna, maybe have a bare minimum Monday.
Right. Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, there are certainly higher barriers to access, home ownership or other luxuries that past generations have. Plus, you have to hear it from older generations about how you're lazy. I want to touch on that hustle culture thing, because that is a millennial thing. So really quickly, if we as millennials had hustle culture, how would you describe the Gen Z culture?
Gen Z culture, again, like a lot of us are teenagers. I think a lot of us are just trying to like figure out who we are in this like very, very, very scary world. And I think that time will tell. Like, definitely there's issues with Gen Z. I asked my mom before I came here, like, how is it working with Gen Z? And she was like, well, yeah, they do go on their phone more than other people. So yeah, we do have that. But I think that time will tell more about Gen Z. And I think like the biggest thing I just want to say is like, the older generations are expecting us to like conform to a system. They're like, why aren't you doing this? But the system doesn't work anymore. So why conform to a system that's like completely broken?
Wow. Well, Neena, if Gen Z is anything like you, the kids are all right. So thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mo.
Folks, this is VANCOLOUR's secret sauce, Neena Savage. I am so lucky to have her as part of the team, along with our guy behind the camera, Derek Wong. He's an elder millennial. Now, after some business, my yard has been taken over by a bear. I'm scared. So let's talk about it up next.